let's open up with the could Xbox be the new home of JRPGs? Now, why do I bring that up? Why is that a conversation? Well, for many years, gentlemen and chat, we all know that Xbox has been skipped more times than not. Usually in the JRPG aspect of gaming, where you see games come to Switch because Switch is a very popular console, and of course the market leader in many places, which of course here in the United States as well, is PlayStation 5. So for years, Xbox was skipped over, and we've complained. And sometimes the the vocal Xbox community gets things done, kind of like what happened with the Xbox and the Capcom collections. Now, again, those are old games, and a lot of people don't care about them, but I do. And I was out there on the socials tweeting every other day saying, "Hey, why are you forgetting about us? I want to play some of these old games without having to, I don't know, take my Dreamcast out of storage and play the old game. Why shouldn't I be able to play it on my Xbox? Even though I bought it for the Switch, even though I bought it for the PS4, that can now be played on my PS5 because I like those games. I love Capcom. The Persona series, more specifically, pretty much everything that Sega has been doing, originally never launched on an Xbox. And that, those bridges, whether they were broken and are now mended, or the avenues of discussion and conversation are now wide open. And we know that they're working with them on their Super Game initiative, which is going to bring many of the classic games that we know and love from the Sega days to modern consoles. We saw that you're going to get Streets of Rage. You're getting a remake of that. That looks phenomenal. You're getting a Crazy Taxi. There's talk of a House of the Dead remake. I hope that they figure out a way to do with the light guns. That would be dope because they'd get my money. They have a lot. Jet Set Radio is going to be coming back in a big way. And I believe that all of those games are, in fact, going to be marketed by Xbox. That's a really, really big deal. But looking at today's show, more specifically being a little bit pointed, Korkenstein, about games like Persona 3 Reloaded. Now, that was inside of Xbox Game Pass day and date. There is an upgrade, an expansion that you can get if you are an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, an ultimate subscriber for free, which is absolutely amazing. You don't have to buy it. And just on the Persona series alone, they've seen significant growth. But I don't think that growth that we're seeing, I have the numbers here for you folks. Like, I'm all about all about the numbers. It's that evidence-based conversation that I enjoy having, because you can have an opinion, but you can't argue numbers. And even though I'm not suggesting at all, Korkenstein, that somehow the Xbox players are the saviors of everything JRPG, but I am going to suggest that it is because of more players on Xbox buying these games that they said they would buy when they released, or why we're seeing significant numbers arrows going up for the Persona series. So I have a couple of years here. Now, this is the Persona series specifically, has been experiencing a consistent level of growth year over year. April 2021 to March 2022, there were 1.3 million copies sold. Now, that's not a lot of copies sold. That's 1.3 million worldwide. That's not really a lot. April 2022 to March 2023, there was a massive jump. 3.27 million copies sold worldwide. That is a positive of 1.97 million copies. And this is where it gets really good, folks. April 2023 to March 2024, 5.6 million copies sold worldwide. That is an increase, once again, of 1.79 million copies compared to the previous year. So they have been seeing a consistent upgrade in their sales. I think that has a lot to do with Xbox now being one of the platforms that is not a launching pad, but more like a landing pad, so to speak, for JRPGs. I think it's a really big deal. I think that this is going to potentially open up the avenues of other publishers like Bandai Namco. They're going to look and say, wait a second, Xbox gamers actually do buy games. And when they do put their games in the Game Pass, they're getting these oodles of cash, these bags of cash from Xbox, who we know spends $1 billion a year on Xbox Game Pass third party for the service. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so it's great because Sega and Xbox were really smart about this, how they launched JRPGs back into Xbox. Because I mean, let's be honest, it was pretty much, I mean, you had the Lost Odysseys, you had the Blue Dragons, but they were very far and few between. Even Final Fantasy kind of jumped back. It, it there were very far and few between that. I feel like a lot of that consumer base, there was people that say, yeah, I want it, but those that would actually buy it, I think were a little, it wouldn't have been sustainable at the time. So they were really smart about it, and they got people to buy into JRPGs with Game Pass. That's why Sega released so many into Game Pass, with the Yakuza series, Persona, other studios too. Like I said, yeah, with Yakuza and all that. And now people are like, oh, this is awesome. And now you have something where you get Metaphor, and now people are like, oh, it's not in Game Pass, but I've loved JRPGs. I got so much into them, via Game Pass. I want to buy this. And it's just smart. It was smart how they went into it. They didn't try and brute force it, which I think I'm a little hesitant with Square on what they're doing. Like I said, I love that they're doing the pixel remasters, and it is selling well from what I've read. But I mean, it has like a $50 price tag, $60 price tag, which
Actually,
is
yeah, you know what? I thought that it was a regular price. It's not. It's actually $80. It was
yeah,
$79.99 for the Pixel Collection, but it was $20 off. Or
for
$10 off.
pre-sale,
Yeah, it was a
I think.
pre-sale. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, okay, I get it, Square, but maybe it's because Sega did a lot of the heavy lifting on getting people back into those genres again, so they felt comfortable with it. If anything, I've always felt that Square, kind of owes the Xbox gamers a little bit of an olive branch here. It doesn't mean give stuff away for free. I'm not saying that at all, but kind of be smart with it and kind of, take a few on the chin for kind of ignoring this consumer base for so long. So yeah, whatever they want to do, but yeah, I was kind of shocked at that. But it's working. You've had gamers that have been hungry for this, and everybody's talked about these amazing titles, and now they got to play them practically, for, I'm gonna say, for free, because you're still paying a subscription service. But it's better than paying the full price, and people are getting so heavily involved that now Metaphor's out. People are like, yes, I have to get this. I loved Persona. I loved these JRPGs. I need these games now, or I want these games now. And it's just very smart, especially with PlayStation a while back. I remember it hit the news headlines that PlayStation was going to pull out of that Japanese niche kind of RPG market, for niche games, and it got, because they wanted to focus on Western Hollywood big blockbusters. And the narrative got really out of control that Jim Ryan had to come out and be like, no, we're not doing that. But then of course they went, double down on Uncharted, Spider-Man, God of War, and kind of proved them right as they stepped back from those, Japanese kind of games, which I think a lot of Japanese gamers also kind of stepped back from PlayStation, which just helped Nintendo gain the already mega foothold that they have in there even bigger. But it did open up the avenue for Xbox to kind of fill that little bit of a void that they could find. And now you're seeing such a big success. So smart marketing, I think, I think there's definitely a home now. Sega put in, I mean, it's also Play Anywhere. A lot of Sega games are Play Anywhere. Metaphor, yep. Refantasmio, you could get it on PC and Xbox, and you could cross platform. So it's great. But yeah, Xbox definitely made a foothold and a home for JRPGs that weren't there before.
Yeah, I think they're doing. I think that they're doing the right thing by their consumers. A lot of us have said multiple times, have they abandoned Japan? Like, have they just thrown up their hands and say, listen, we can't get in here? But they are doing it. They are doing the work. Obviously, they were a part of Tokyo Game Show 2024. And again, a lot of people thought the show was okay. I was fine with 7.5, but also that show, even though I'm a gamer, was for the Japanese audience. And for the Japanese audience, they loved it. Apparently, it went off very well for them. And that's what they needed to do, because they need to figure out a way to get. I mean, the perfect example, look at the socials today. even if you don't follow a lot of Japanese gamers, and I do, I follow a lot of their content creators as well, and everyone is tweeting about the new console, and it's the digital white one, the digital white X. Everyone's buying it. I've seen about half a dozen, maybe even by now a dozen different posts, and I don't have that big of a following. And everyone is excited about the the new consoles. Now, granted, they're not quote unquote new. They're just different versions of what we've already had. But after seeing something like the Pixel Collection be number one in the PlayStation in the Xbox store last week, that's a really big deal, right? Metaphor doing very well with the Japanese audience. It appears, Jamie Moran, that Japanese gamers are finding Xbox. Now, are they going to beat Switch? Are they going to beat PlayStation? I don't think so, but they are still selling consoles. And there is a particular retailer for the last month or so that's considered like a Best Buy of Japan, that the Xbox Series X specifically has been in the top 10. They are selling consoles there. People are finding the box, which is fantastic. Do you think that the success of Persona 3 and of course the Yakuza series, as well as like Infinite Wealth, is doing very well? They have the new Pirate in Hawaii game coming out. That is also Sega. That's probably going to sell very well on Xbox. All of the Yakuza series have sold very well. I think that these are now openings for other publishers and potentially developers, even smaller ones, to be like, you know what? Instead of just releasing on a PlayStation and on a Switch, it behooves us to now choose Xbox as well. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's all about brand recognition and association. So, like when it comes to JRPGs, Microsoft, they really want people to associate Persona and Yakuza with Xbox. So they're doing that now. And I think, in the past, when JRPGs have, and I've talked about this all the time because I like to rant about Square at any given opportunity, but Square Enix messed up on Xbox. Their first mainline Final Fantasy game on Xbox was 13, which split the player base, and it was a mess. Same with 15. So, Square Enix have never had like a good time putting Final Fantasy on Xbox because they haven't had the right ones to launch with or even release. So when it comes to Sega, like they did it right. They launched their first few Persona games in Game Pass, get people used to the franchise. Then when they came out with Persona 3 Reload, yes, that was in Game Pass, but again, people were familiar with the franchise. They did the same with Yakuza. New Yakuza titles don't even launch in Game Pass. So they're doing that right. They're getting people used to these franchises. And like you have these people that will joke about saying, like, who's going to buy JRPGs on Xbox? And like, if you go to Japan, the PlayStation fan base is shrinking. The Nintendo Switch mobile gaming is taking off, right? That's why Microsoft and all these other companies are wanting to get into mobile streaming, because that's where a lot of the money is at. That's why a lot of people are buying Steam Decks and ROG Allies, because portable gaming is just a thing there. So, like, if Microsoft can like get all this sorted out and have their streaming thing sorted, which they are pushing forward with, and getting Call of Duty and streaming, it's going to work really well. Will they become the de facto quote unquote JRPG console? No, but I don't think they need to be. They just need to be associated with JRPGs more. Because think about it, for the past, how many years, whenever a JRPG pops up at E3 or Gamescom or the Game Awards, you wait until the end of that trailer and you can almost guarantee that you're going to see a PlayStation logo and a Nintendo logo. You almost never see an Xbox logo, and that's changing. I think Japanese publishers are beginning to realize that most JRPG sales come from outside of Japan. And for the longest time, they haven't wanted to put games on the console, on Xbox in the past, because the sales in Japan. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Xbox is selling whether people like it or not. It's not selling as great as PlayStation, but it is still selling millions of consoles. And they have enough audience out there, enough of a player base, that there is bound to be a decent chunk of people that want JRPGs, because people have been texting me, messaging me for years that, hey, is this Final Fantasy game coming to Xbox? I have to type out, no, not this one, not again. And with Sega, they clearly have no problem with bringing all their games to Xbox. Hell, they even came out earlier this year, or it might have been last year, a game called Unicorn Overlord.
Yeah, it
That
sold very well, dude. It
yeah,
was
it sold really well, and that is one of the nichest JRPGs I've ever played. Right, but that's really cool, and the fact that it's sold on Xbox is a testament to that there is a fan base on Xbox wanting these games. And you know, I'll rant about Square Enix again. They messed up hilariously with Kingdom Hearts. Their first Kingdom Hearts game, a franchise that's notoriously complicated, their first Kingdom Hearts game on Xbox was 3. And then they came out with the HD collection 3 years later and then wondered why it didn't sell well. Right? Square Enix are absolutely incompetent, while Sega, they actually doing things right. You know, new games constantly getting announced for Xbox, brand recognition. Yes, the occasional game does go on Game Pass, but there's excitement around JRPGs on Xbox, and a lot of that is because of Sega and the relationship they have going. And I'd say most of the big JRPGs for the foreseeable future we're going to see on Xbox are actually from Square Enix. Sorry, not Square Enix, Sega. But it's good that this is happening, because for the longest time people said this wouldn't happen. And I think, if you look on Xbox, there's a fan base for JRPGs. And every time there's a game came out or people wanting the game to come over, so you have these outliers on Twitter and some people that work for IGN and all this stuff that'll talk about, no, these developers shouldn't port these games to Xbox because of the cost of the port. But they act like the cost of these ports is like the cost of the main game itself. That always annoys me. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a double standard. And of course, I think one of the tropes, if you will, Infinite Umbra, that gets consistently snuffed out is Xbox gamers don't buy games because we are so used to Game Pass. Now I know they're not talking to me, because I bought in the last, I don't know, 3 weeks, probably around 17 games that I paid for, not in Game Pass, that I literally bought with my money. Because there's a lot of great games. At the end of the year, there always is, which is why I save my gift cards. And I go crazy. And what I should do is stop, which I did, and wait for the end of the year sale, leave everything in my cart. And then when I go to my cart and they're all half price, I go crazy, which you all should do. But Infinite Umbra, you specifically loved Metaphor Refantasio so much that you wrote an incredible review, which you can find on thegamingcircle.com. And it was a very well detailed write up. I know that you're playing it. I'm playing it. It's all I want to play. I have so many games that I have to get into. Silent Hill, it's open. The disc is in. I haven't started it. I also have the new Zelda game in the cellophane, still not open. It's not enough time in the day to play all of these games, especially when you have something like Metaphor, which is, it's a massive JRPG. It's an 80 to 100 hours. I'm only 20 hours in. But I do think that the excitement in the community, you could feel it. You can see it. People like the Black Viking are consistently putting out tweets of how amazing I had put out. It's very rare to do a perfect trio of, I call them supers, but they're team up magics. And I did one that I couldn't believe I actually recorded it perfectly. And I just did the hold down the button and recorded my clip, and it came out so freaking good. I couldn't believe that it was actually me that did it. And there are more of those instances happening in the community. People played Overlord, Unicorn Overlord. People are playing the Yakuza series. People are waiting not in a virtual line, not a real line anymore, for the next Yakuza game that's going to be the pirate in Hawaii, right? Like Infinite Wealth. People are still playing it. People are playing Persona 3 Reloaded. I'm going to play Persona 3 Reloaded because I've been told that is just as amazing as Metaphor. But we're talking about this. There's excitement in the community, here in the channel, on your channel, on other people's channel, because people really love JRPGs. And I think that we could see a renaissance, if you will, of what happened during the 360 era, where there were a ton of really dominant, pretty big JRPGs. and Square is on board, Sega is on board, Atlas is now on board, and Xbox is getting in bed, pause, so to speak, with these companies, with these publishers to get marketing deals. It matters. It matters in a big way. And I think ultimately we could see Xbox becoming the home of JRPGs. What are your thoughts?
I mean, anything is possible during the 360 era, like you mentioned. I mean, Xbox took off with that, right?
Yep.
But it's something that has to be consistent. And I don't know, looking at where Microsoft is, where they're going to be pushing their first party to where they are, this is a different landscape for them now. Like they have all these different IP that's going to take precedence over anything else. And I think the fan base is more attached to those types of games than they are JRPGs overall. But anything is possible. Who would have thought that Persona 3 would do as well as it's doing now, the Reload? Who would have thought Persona 5 would have sold as much as it sold? Who would have thought ReFantazio is doing it would do well? I did actually, but still, the point of it is it's doing way better than a lot of people would have given it credit for. And I think a lot of that does have something to do with the reception it's been getting from the demo and just how Xbox has presented it as well. I don't know if I would say, well, yeah, because Xbox marketed and that's why it's just doing so well. I think it's just happenstance that Sega Atlas, in this case, had put together such great games in succession that they have built up that audience, and Microsoft was wise enough to partner up with them and, you know, bring their games to Game Pass or market them in general. Anything is possible.